I'm calling from Los Angeles, and I'm having a little problem under the name ThatUmbrellaGuy. I sent him my phone number at least 20 times in the chat and told him to call me. He ignored me. I'm a man. I filed the report. If you guys could take a look at it and give me a call back, I would love to hear what you guys can do to help us. We really need to kind of stop this guy at least until Monday. I told him to call me. I'm a man.
Just my silence, ghost riding the whip, the mask up, live ender, busting up your threats and returning them to sender. Step into me, you better bring a nation as I wreck you to the population. It's that umbrella guy on the verbal flamethrower, notching up the belt, not just some lame shower, cranking up a stream just to show what's beneath. I'm masked up, baby, but I'm still sporting teeth. With one bling to rule them all and one bling to blind them. Iced out, grilled up, hunting knowing we'll find them. That E-homes are always flammable and will ignite you. Calling out the games you play just to spite you. I'm still standing.
All right, I'm still standing, baby. Welcome to a Sunday edition of Let's Have a Guest finally on. Man, I've been looking forward to this, actually, with Veteran Nation. How you doing, brother?
I'm doing good. Thank you for having me on.
Oh, yeah, man. I've been, like I said, since this started up, I was like, I thought about actually having you on right when it kicked off, but I was like, you know what? I think it's going to get a little crazier. So we'll lay the groundwork and watch the crazy progress, and then it'll be great. We'll be like, here he is, right here. It has been crazy to watch too, man. Did you expect this kind of crazy when Bruce popped up for your live stream, by the way?
I had like a couple weeks earlier, he was in like Facebook groups challenging people to come on and talk with him on a live stream. And I was like, look, I've got a show. I'll talk with you. I don't care. Because, again, you know, I go back to that journalist. You got to kind of show both sides, you know, let the other side speak their piece. And so when he jumped in, because I was just breaking news. I was breaking the news of his new lawsuit against Jeremy Hales, against Larry Foreman, Tat Greaves, and George. And no one else had really done anything. So I was like, I'm going to go live and just talk about it. And he ended up in the comments, and he was going after people. They were calling him names. It was getting kind of divisive. And I was like, why don't you come on the show? And I gave him my email. He sent me an email. I sent him the link. And I knew it would be dramatic, because I knew we would go back and forth and have a little bit of a debate, and I would be asking him some tough questions. I did not think he would go completely off the rails.
Yeah, I pulled that lawsuit up beside us here. If people haven't been keeping up for some reason, if you don't know about this, we are in the rounds of, man, so many people either being sued or it's just like a version of whack-a-mole. Like, who's going to get sued next? I'm thinking about, man, I almost started a betting pool on it. I was like, who's going to get served next? Will it be Travis, Megan, Veteran Nation, Madam Mayor? Let's see. And it is crazy, man. The thing that struck me, and again, I want to loop back and talk about your channel and everything in a second, but
Sure.
What really struck me was you wanted to have a good faith conversation. Like, you invited him on, and you were more than willing to let him talk about whatever went on. And
Yeah.
I think you worked. I think you worked as a cautionary tale almost. How that'll turn out. Sorry, go ahead, my friend.
I've got a lot of experience because of the Marine Corps of people trying to trap you and try to set you up. So I could see what he was doing, and I was like, no, I'm going to keep you on task. I'm going to keep you on point of the things that really people should be concerned about. And with every question I asked him, there was a reason why I was asking those questions. And I understood that there were some he was never going to answer. That's fine. As a journalist, they teach you, ask those questions, just let them not answer them. But I was also willing to let him say whatever he wanted to say and then let the people make their decision.
I found it interesting that out of anything that he didn't want to say, I have a piece of signed paper that says that I am legal counsel. I thought that was kind of fascinating. Now, he did finally say that, but man, that was a lot of dancing to get that answer.
And, for me, that should have been my first question, but I will admit I kind of screwed up. But I did want to get that question out there because I really wanted to know, are you really legally speaking for her? And, because you presented yourself as her attorney, I just want to know, are you really? Or, if he was like writing her will, I don't really need to talk to him.
Correct, yeah. But if he's out there, essentially, if he is her mouthpiece, if he is her for all legal purposes, he is her. Yeah, you want to know who you're talking to.
And, had he said, well, I don't represent her for this, I would have accepted that answer and said, okay. But it was just kind of one of those checks in the mark that I really, you have to ask as a journalist because, it's a pretty common practice.
Yeah. Again, it's any kind of interview, and you want to know how, when the answers come, what they're related to and how that's coming up. I could actually, again, I drew a lot of inference. He tried to draw a lot of inference off of what you were stating. And for me, I was like, well, I'm drawing a lot of conclusions off of what he's stating, actually.
And a lot of that is common for this case. There's things that people are dwelling on that for me, I'm like, yeah, I don't care about that. Like the whole adoption thing, he wanted to really focus on that. And I was like, dude, I don't care. I really don't care about that.
Right.
Whether she adopted the child or not, it's really immaterial. That's why I kept saying legal guardian. And he made a big deal about he was like, you said it's not, it's an illegal adoption. Well, I will admit I did say that, but when I said that, I was reading aloud the comments in the chat. That is not a belief I've ever held. I was just reading what someone, and I do that during the show. I read people's comments.
Yeah, I do that myself, and sometimes, in reading screen names, sometimes I've been almost baited into saying "uh-oh" things. A what now? I'm like, no, I don't want to say that word. But yeah. You'll be reading something and you'll think, well, that's not me, And I've been clipped saying certain things that I'm like, I was reading somebody's. But I thought it was interesting because all of that discussion became about those two words. It wasn't anything else about environmental abuse, which you were discussing, you know, any of
Right.
the standard or substandard. It became about 2 words.
And he kept going, well, there's been 23 visits. There's been 23 visits and they haven't found anything. And I'm like, okay, well, if you've been visited 23 times by CPS and now you're having problems of fleas, lice, and you clearly are okay with locking this child in isolation, maybe those 23 visits weren't thorough, or maybe they just weren't really doing what they were supposed to, is where it comes back to me.
Yeah, I think the best question here, and I'll ask you this: when you reported that, were you making a good faith effort to talk to CPS?
Absolutely, I was. I watched a video. I actually thought it was a live stream. People told me that it wasn't a live stream, and that's okay. I had watched it several days prior, so I couldn't remember. And I do know it was not edited. They keep saying, "Oh, it was edited." Okay, if you watch the video, I keep telling people, show me the edits, because any edits in it are not material edits. So
yeah, exactly. That's a great point, actually. You know, the edits. Okay, yeah, we have Lloyd arriving on scene, for example. We have, they skip over the police filling out the complaints, getting them off property. But besides that, the trespass. I mean, really, where are the edits?
And he's very much on, I need to be accurate. He's worried about the adoption, me calling it a legal adoption. He's very worried about that. But in his letter that he wrote to YouTube Legal, he has inaccurate information in there. He says, I rebroadcast Jeremy's video. I have never, ever rebroadcast any of Jeremy's videos. The video I actually watched initially was Madam Mayor's video. And yeah, okay, so you got a copy of the letter.
Oh,
I haven't received it yet. I've got screenshots of what he went on to other shows.
Oh,
and
I'll send this over to you, man. Okay. I'll send it to you as well. That's sad. Actually, I have this, and it's interesting. I want to add this too, because I heard, and again, I have not seen this, but I want to clarify this. I heard that he was saying, like, I had a document that also was about Travis. You know that certain document about Travis? Yeah, he was saying that Travis, at least this is what was reported to me. Again, if it's wrong, okay. But from what I heard, he was saying that I had gotten that from Travis. And I was like, I have never, besides interviews, like the discussions I've had live and building into that, I've never actually had a conversation with Travis that...
Here's what's funny about that. That letter he didn't send to me. Okay, he did not send to me. And he started going back and forth with me on Facebook, and I finally had enough, and I was like, don't contact me again. And I said, I feel you're being harassing right now. Don't ever contact me again. The next morning, he sends me the letter that he was sending to Travis. He blind copied me. Mm-hmm. But yet he didn't send me this letter about me. And the thing about Travis,
that's the thing people need to understand with him. He's been sending this stuff to just random people. Like, he's sending documents to random people. This one actually went... See, he didn't send this to you, but he sent it to Megan. So that's where we ended up with this. So,
and the other thing is, he makes a big deal. He's like, well, he made this call and then they showed up. If you watch the call, at the end of the call, they don't take my complaint. They said, well, we can't take your complaint because you watched it in a video. They don't take, which I think is stupid, because, like, well, if I saw it on CCTV, are you going to tell me that you can't take that complaint? If I was watching a child being beaten in a camera that's in a nursing, child facility, you tell me you can't use that as a complaint?
Well, and it's interesting too, talking about that, because I thought about that in the aftermath, because this says that your call resulted in a visit, but yet they said they weren't going to take your complaint. So that's a little confusing there. You know what I mean?
And I also have to laugh because there's these small channels who are content farming, and a couple of them were talking, and the clip was sent to me, and they accused me of swatting.
What? Of swatting?
Yeah, that
because of the address there.
No, because apparently when CPS shows up, they're coming in guns hot, I guess.
See, typically, it depends on where you are, too. CPS may have an investigator. They don't always do that. It depends on the type of complaint. Like, if there's a very serious one, they may bring a sheriff's investigator or whatever, but sometimes they just bring a CPS worker or two CPS workers. So
Yeah. And
but
normally
that's still not swatting. You know?
they sometimes have like not uniformed deputy sheriffs and stuff like that who will show up. And yeah, they're armed, but they're not coming with their guns drawn.
Yeah, they're in the capacity of investigation. That's typically what they're there for. I've had some false complaints with that, so I've had a little bit of I've had a little bit too much understanding of how that system works. And one time they've come by themselves. I've had a sheriff that's actually so again, it really depends. It's crazy though. Talking about this letter. Let's look at this letter here. And you noted, like right off the bat, like I found it first of all interesting. We're talking about going to legal support. We're not actually going to trying to hit you for content or anything else. They're trying to shut you down.
Yeah.
That's what did you think when you saw that?
I mean, I was like, okay, what angle is he going to take? And he doesn't quite upfront say it, but he's going for a defamation claim. And I kind of chuckled. I'm like, YouTube does not care about defamation at all.
Right.
They're like, hey, that's for you to decide in the courts. Now, if we were talking copyright or, like legitimately putting people in danger, YouTube would absolutely care about that. So
Sure.
when I read it, I was like, these lawyers are not going to care one bit.
No, and I get the feeling that they haven't cared for a while about claims that have been coming in. I get this feeling there's been a lot of this. Here, I'm gonna read this because you noted right off the bat this issue right here with this beginning right here. So in the linked video, the host, I'm just calling you Veteran Nation. I'm gonna skip over and just say Veteran Nation. By the way, I want to note off the bat, you deserve all this stuff. You deserve people subscribing. So if you have not subscribed, make sure you do. If mods would, please make sure to put the channel link in the description. And I will add this, like with rebroadcast, I will put it in the description. So there will be a link for it as well. But
I appreciate that.
Oh, no problem, man. Hey, I appreciate you coming on. Like I said, I was watching you go through this and all the crazy. I actually thought about having you on, what was that? I guess Friday. I can't remember if it's Friday or Thursday. I don't know. The last live stream I did talking about all of the exchanges. But I thought, no, what we do is we talk about the crazy, the crazier, and then, we get your opinion because I'm sure more will happen, but I found it really, I really think, and again, you don't have to say anything on this, but I get the feeling, like you said, they're building toward a claim, a defamation claim, and with everyone else getting served, But anyway, so
I've already had some discussions with some legal people, and we already know, like, if something comes, how we want to respond.
Okay, that's good. That's good that you talked to legal right away.
I'm in California, a state that, is very loose with things such as jurisdiction. YouTube is here, so I have that also on my side if it comes to any legal stuff here.
Well, yeah, and statements were made there. So I mean, again, all of the stuff that they're alleging that happened there, and the allegation right off the bat, again, after rebroadcasting video footage from what the hell's of my client Michelle Preston property, called in CPS or Child Protective Services report on Miss Preston while streaming live. Would you like to comment on that sentence there?
Yeah, I have never ever streamed any of Jeremy's videos. I've talked about his cases and the corruption down there in Levy County, because that's a big thing that me and both my co-host TC, who runs Minnesota Black Robe Regiment, I'll give him a quick plug. We do a show every other Tuesday, and we do a lot on harassment and corruption. He's a former law enforcement officer, so we talk about a lot of these things, and we don't want to steal other people's content. I talked about how I watched Madam Mayor's video, and I encourage people to go watch it, but I never streamed it on my show. What we had actually shown was that morning it was filed, the lawsuit, and I showed the Levy County screenshots of the Levy County Court webpage showing that lawsuit, and we just talked about that.
Yeah, I remember. I knew right away what footage was being discussed, just from what came up. And I found it interesting because, number one, that's not from What the Hells. That's actually, that was a Madam Mayor item. Did you watch it off of Madam? You said you thought it was a live stream, so I take it you watched it from the channel there.
Madam Mayor's video had come out first, and I actually was working at the time that I turned it on and just kind of had it in the background as I was doing other stuff. But then, when they really got onto the property, I started paying attention, and I was disturbed, as many people were, when it appeared that she was going to lock the child in the trailer, because that's a 5-year-old. That's very unsafe. And then, a day or two later, Deanna, who works, with Jeremy, her video came out on Jeremy's channel, and it just confirmed everything. It didn't have any of the video confirming about the child, but just confirmed the general state of the property and what Lynette was trying to do. And so, I mean, right there, I had two sources of it. But I was watching concern for Lloyd. He's a fellow veteran, and I've stayed out of the personal stuff of this. Other than if my audience brings it up and wants to talk about it, I'll talk about it. Sure. It's at that point, it's just us talking. So I'll talk about it then. If that's what they want to talk about, I want them to be entertained. So I'll talk about it. And but I don't do videos on John or Lynette. I don't do videos on them. I'll do videos on the court. I'll do videos on the sheriff. I'll do that. So I've touched on it, but I've really kind of stayed off of a lot of the stuff until Lloyd, was involved. And there we're talking another veteran, an elderly veteran, who, in my opinion, was in danger. So I'm Veteran Nation. Of course, I'm going to be a little bit more hands-on when it comes to a veteran.
Yeah, I mean, as far as your channel, like you said, Veteran Nation. So tell me a little bit about your channel, actually. For people for myself, too, you're catching me up on, everything that you've been doing, you've done for a while, but also,
sure,
anyone that's catching this. And again, hopefully, when you're hearing this, subscribe and you can see this play out real time. You can see what you cover. So tell me about your channel.
Sure. We're about 4 years old. We started it. It was initially called Veteran Nation with the Sergeant and the Skipper. I had another co-host, and NRN really was instrumental in making it happen. And they wanted like a vet bro show of like guns and tattoos, and that's just not me. I served for the guys that are into that stuff. That's great. That's not me. But I then pitched them. I said, no, I'd like to do it as a comedy show. And they were like, no, we don't want to do that. And then I said, okay, how about if I can help veterans? And they were like, we can get on board with that. And I've been doing it for 4 years. My initial co-host left. I brought TC in. He does his own channel, but he's a 82nd Airborne veteran. He's a former deputy sheriff. I brought him in probably about 2 years ago. And we've had networks pick up our stuff. We were really big on Facebook. When the networks were broadcasting our stuff, we were getting like thousands of people. But, the podcast network thing, it's hard to make it profitable. It's very competitive. Right. And actually, both of them just kind of got out of the game of really podcasting as much as what they were. So at that point, I took over the channel and was like, okay, I'll just build the community myself this way. And ever since
how long
day,
how
Go
long
ahead.
has that been going on? I don't mean to cut you off. I was just wondering, like, what's the timeline on it? How long have you been, dedicated to you
YouTube,
building the channel?
about 2 years, about 2 years of where it's primarily me doing a lot of the stuff.
Hmm.
And I had to learn a lot about YouTube. I had to learn, how to get followers, how to build thumbnails. And, it was just a matter of time. I had a couple videos, one video that if you go on the channel, I've got a whole playlist on service dog harassment because I've got a service dog. And I was in a restaurant here in California. The owner had a problem with me having my dog, so I started live streaming. And eventually, it's a really long live stream because we were waiting for the sheriff to come. They got bored of waiting for the sheriff, and they just straight up attacked me. Uh,
Oh
I
no, man.
I was okay. I was more worried that they would tell the sheriff, which they did. They told the sheriff that I attacked them. But when the sheriff came, I was like, I have it all on live stream. They attack me, and it cuts out my live stream. So, and I know that when I pull out my phone, there are going to be people who do not want to be videoed and think that they have the right to not be videoed and will absolutely try to put their hands on you to stop that.
It's
So,
interesting. With you video quite a bit of whatever you're covering, whatever you're doing. You do a lot of your stuff live. So they kind of, working it back to the CPS complaint, is that why you would live stream a CPS complaint?
oh yeah, that's whenever there's breaking news. Like today, I covered a fire right here in my hometown of, well, the town I live, 29 Palms. I was driving down the road, saw black smoke. I was like, that's a fire. I'm gonna go turn on my camera and live stream it. So that happened today. With that one, I had someone who checks they check the court every day about Jeremy Hales, and they were like, "There's an update today," and they sent it to me, and I was like, "Wait, this is a new case. This is breaking news. I'm gonna go live because a lot of people are not going to know about this till later, and they'll learn about it from me." So uh, it's opportunities, opportunities to share stuff that maybe people wouldn't see. So I'm all about that with the channel. I'm a Marine. We run to the guns. We hear the sound of gunfire, we run to it, and that actually works well with me being a journalist. It's like, okay, yeah, I'm gonna grab my camera and I'm gonna get some footage.
Now, as far as the everything going on with what the hell, really, not even them, Levy County. Let's just say it is Levy
Right.
County because I noticed you have brought up many times corruption with Levy
Yeah.
County. How long have you been, first of all, focused on Levy County?
So I was a casual viewer of Jeremy Hales. I watched. He's from Ohio. I'm from Ohio, and when he had issues in Worcester, is when I started following him because I was like, I know people there. I know the area, and that's where I started following him. But I really started following, I would say, March, April of last year when he was really starting to fight his town council over the water rates. And I took notice of it. I hadn't done anything on my channel. I did a YouTube short in May about his fight with the town council. And but at that time is when he started. He had sent us in May of 2023 is when he sent his cease and desist to Lynette. And she made a post that she was like, I am ignoring this. And I was like, ooh, this is a bad idea. And, I like to watch, like everyone else, I'll watch the train wreck. So I started watching her and I started screenshotting a lot of her stuff because, I'm out here in California. We've got crazy all over the place and I can recognize it. So I was like, yeah, I'm going to follow this along and see where this goes. Let's see what kind of medication she's on. And oh my, I did not know this is where it was going to land us.
No, it's been fascinating. I was surprised by the corruption.
Right.
That's something that gets lost in a lot of what's happening now. The starting with corruption. When I talked to Madam Mayor, for example, and she highlighted so much of it, I found it fascinating, and it really intrigued me Because the first thing you were talking about, again, you weren't saying, oh, this stuff with Preston or Cook. Now, that's not the thing. I've been following it because of corruption.
Now, like in the Facebook groups, I'll laugh about that. I'll make fun of it because, like, people like her, their biggest fear, her and Bruce, is being mocked. That is their absolute biggest fear. And I'll go in there and tell some jokes, post some memes, but I really don't do much with that on the channel until Bruce wanted to get into the comment section. It was getting really dicey in there, and I was like, okay, yeah, I'll bring you on. But I mean, I've written letters to the governor. I've written letters, or I've made phone calls to the Tampa FBI on the sheriff's department because they're violating the 14th Amendment. They're not applying the law equally. And I've seen that in many other areas. This is not the first time I've written letters to a governor, not the first time I've written letters or contacted the FBI about these type of issues. Like I said, me and my co-host, we do this type of stuff all the time. We'll fight harassment and corruption. And, normally with most cities, when you start really going down that route, they start making some changes and they hush up very quickly.
Right.
You don't see that in Levy County. They just,
No.
I'm reminded of, this is Spinal Tap. They dialed up. They go to 11.
Yeah, indeed, man. I was surprised by the retaliatory nature, or the seemingly retaliatory nature of a lot of stuff that's transpired.
And, coming after a veteran, you got to know us veterans. We are I say we are a tenacious bunch. Oh, we like a good battle. And threatening us is not going to get us to back down. Threatening us is like, oh, okay, you want to play? Yeah, I'll play some games.
Well, you also noted that the reason that you were interested and wanted to see what was going on with Madam Mayor was because of Lloyd.
Yes. Yes.
So with that, I mean, I could answer what disturbed me about what I was seeing with Lloyd, but what brought your attention there? What disturbed you about all that?
Well, it was clearly exploitation. Just like how the child's being exploited, Lloyd was being exploited. And there's a lot of, as a veteran, there's a lot of predatory people out there. I get emails every single day. I get text message every single day of people who, they think because we're veterans and many of us get, VA pension and disability, they think we're sitting on all this cash. But,
right.
So there's a lot of predatory people, especially when it comes to older veterans. I've seen it even from the VA, where they will absolutely be predatory. So my mission, the official mission of Veteran Nation is to help and entertain veterans, military, and their families. And, it just falls right into my mission to help.
Yeah, when I saw the I'm going to call it the Travis email,
yeah.
I guess, or the Travis or whatever complaint. When I saw that, I thought, man, that felt like exploitation. Considering everything that I had heard around this, the $500 a month to live in what he described as absolute chaos, and then we had heard about them wanting to sign over his RV and him saying,
Yep.
no. And he was told not to worry about that at all.
Your refrigerator is ours now.
Yeah. I mean, that's just, well, he was asked about the dollar thing, in the phone call with Jeremy. There was the discussion about John Cook saying something. Again, I'm paraphrasing because this is the way I remember it. So again, if I get something misstated, that's not intentional. But $1, that's what people were being told that camper was going to be theirs for $1. And then when Lloyd asked something about it, he was told, don't worry about that. And then, after everything plays out, we hear about there's a contract, or supposedly a contract. We haven't seen the contract, but there is supposedly an enforceable contract out there.
Mm-hmm. And, if there is, why is he not emailing that to everybody? You know, I could care less about his letters.
Yeah, well, and with that, why wasn't that brought up while the police were present? Again, they felt the need to argue over a refrigerator. I mean, that was so important that that was in dispute, but the RV wasn't in dispute. I found that to be kind of, I don't know, interesting.
And I had a big problem with the RV because Lloyd had a bill of sale, and the sheriff acted like that is nothing. And I was like, it's a bill of sale, like that's
Right.
proof. But yet
Yeah.
they made him leave the refrigerator behind. We're like, well, you got to go through other steps. I'm like, you know, again, veterans can be very petty. I'm not going to say I'm different from the rest of them. I was like, oh, let's take this to small claims court and get this guy his refrigerator or the money.
Yeah, well, I mean, it is disturbing when I when I can be like, hey, here's again my bill of sale. Here's Amazon. This is when I bought
Yep.
it. This is everything about it.
You can see
That
it's the
doesn't
same
matter.
one.
That's
Yeah.
just it's wild to me. I mean that whole video though, watching that and hearing about the background. I heard the phone call first, and then I saw what happened with Madam Mayor and everything that went on, and I thought, man, it's disturbing enough to hear that Lloyd, not only what he was recounting went on, but also that he has to be brought on our property where he said, I'm afraid to be here. And he's still forced to go out there after hip surgery to be present. And seeing Levy County and the way they handle things, I would not feel comfortable even with law enforcement present.
Well, that and in the interview, Bruce says, "Well, they should have hired a company." It's like, no, this is that man's property. He can ask for anyone that he wants to help him secure his property in a reasonable amount of time, and they were there in a reasonable amount of time to make sure that his property was not destroyed, gone through, sabotaged, anything like that. So it's like they did what they were supposed to. They had a sheriff there to protect not just Lloyd's property, but to also protect Lynette's property.
Yeah, that's a key thing that I bring up over and over again about the video and everything else. That is not just for the safety of whomever came on the property to move stuff. That's also for her. We've been told repeatedly. We've heard this in video recording. We heard this with Wes. It was asked about video evidence. If video doesn't exist, essentially it doesn't happen. So yeah, you would want video. Anything could have happened. And again, with the accusations they're throwing around, her being afraid and everything, why wouldn't you want video?
And that's Levy County, doesn't have the world's greatest track record. That's where the town of Rosewood is, if you know what happened there in the 1920s. So it's like, you guys should probably be, trying to give a better face to the public. But that's the thing I've been the most concerned about is the sheriff's department. And that's why I initially contacted Tampa FBI. And then when they didn't want to do anything, I contacted the governor of Florida and also the Department of Justice saying, look, they are not enforcing the 14th Amendment. They're not applying laws equally. So,
yeah, the second sentence on this, going back to the complaint, we've looped around a little bit on that, but I thought it would be, again, explaining why you do things. I think that's really, it really matters with this because again, they're saying, oh, you just did this. You called that up, because essentially for clicks, for harassment, and it's like, no, you're saying, hey, I'll live stream whatever I'm doing. I run toward the fire, as it were.
Yep. And the thing is, I didn't know I was going to do that interview. In fact, that's one thing as I rewatch it, I'm like, on the way I ask some of the questions in the order. And but I come back to, I didn't prepare for this interview. It just kind of happened. I did sports journalism for years, and I can't tell you how many times I've done interviews on the fly where they just kind of happen, and you kick yourself later, like, oh, I should have asked him this, or I should have
Right.
asked this guy this. Uh, you know, in That's just the way it goes. Sometimes you're there, you're in the moment, you just start firing off questions that you think you can get answered, and whatever answers you get are what you get.
Yeah, I found it. Here's another question I want to ask you. Do you plan on having Bruce back? You did say that you would think about having him back, and then you had all this other stuff occur, and you've told him multiple times, "Leave me alone. You're harassing me." So, do you plan on having him back?
At this point, no, I do not. I
Okay.
I was sincere at the time that he left. I recognize that's great television, even though this is YouTube. Like, people love the drama,
Hmm.
and I knew that would get me views. I didn't know how that it got me as many views as what it did.
It was
Uh,
big. It really was.
so I knew it would be interesting. I knew people would enjoy it and would talk about it, which is why I was like, "Oh yeah, come on the show. Don't care. Come
Mhm.
on the show." And this is not the first time I've offered someone, I would say, who's uh, has animosity toward me. 2 weeks ago, I
Like,
had a investigative journalist coming after me, calling me stolen valor, trying to get people against me. And I said, dude, anytime you want, come on the show. I will have you on the show. We can talk, we can debate, whatever. But so it's not the first time, but when he just kept coming, he was like, are you gonna tell your people I sent you the adoption paperwork? Which he did. It took him 2 days and a day and a half of him saying he wasn't going to send it to me, where he did send it to me, and I thanked him for it. And I said, well, you know I have already told people that yes, I did receive the adoption paperwork. uh, I've gone through it. It was a little bit weird, I'll say that. But he was like, "No, you need a retraction." I was like, "I don't need to retract anything. I said legal guardian, nothing, else. Legal guardian is actually correct, even with
sure.
the legal adoption." And he was like, "Well, you need to inform your viewers." I'm like, "Bruce, you were on my show. You informed them. You informed it. You said on my show that it was a legal adoption. So you did it. And I gave you the platform to do it. There you go." But yesterday, I did do a live and I showed people what he sent me. I'm not disputing it's a legal adoption. I am not disputing that. I never have disputed that. So I just said, I don't know. And
Yeah,
he sent me this up.
I'm going to clarify something too. When you said something was big clicks or drama, you're talking about the interview, not the CPS call. Just to
Correct.
clarify that,
Correct.
Yeah, I want to clarify because I know somebody is picking through every sentence that people say and trying to even
Yeah.
if there's no intent there. It was amazing. That's one of the things that was not surprising, but kind of disgusting in its own way, were the
On the
message exchanges. Go
on the live stream, I did say I'm going to call CPS later today, and it just was getting so contentious, and I had people, like a bunch of people in the chat, saying call them now. That I was like, okay, yeah, I'll do that.
Yeah, you showcased exactly what you said, what your complaint would be. I mean, you made it very clear exactly what was going on with it. The paperwork too. I
And
thought this was interesting. So when he sent the paperwork over, there was the message on Facebook where he said, "I sent it, but don't show it." And I thought that was fascinating, considering he was telling you to go and review it on other channels. And he said, it's been out there, it's all over the place. So I guess it's just like that image thing. The image can be out there, it can be all over the place, but don't you dare show that.
what's funny about that is, if you're going to send something to a journalist, don't say don't show it. They're going to
Right.
show it. If you tell them don't show it, they're absolutely going to show it. And again, because if people could be like, "You're lying, he didn't send it to you." Well, guess what? It's now in my possession, and you made it, you know, open to me. So yeah, it's not copyrighted thing. It's literally public record. Uh, But I'll tell you the way that was shocked. Normally, I've asked attorneys for stuff on stories many times, and when they respond to you, they normally, there's some difference, but normally you get a PDF and you get the full documentation. That's not what he gave me. Gave me pictures that were clearly taken by Lynette herself. So he's her attorney. He's not in possession of her documents that he's telling the world all about. And I'm just like, really, you're an attorney. You can't just contact Sarasota court and say, give me a copy of these so then I have them. But yeah, like I'll challenge anyone. Send something to a journalist and say, don't publish this. And guess what? They're gonna publish it.
Yeah, especially, we're not talking about learning about a case here, because I've talked to plenty of sources about something, but someone is disputing something live with me. They're arguing about something, then they're saying, here's proof 100%, and it's been shown other places too. I mean, come on, it's already out there anyway. They put it out there.
And here's the thing: if you want an off-the-record discussion, you ask for an off-the-record discussion. You don't send someone and say, this is off the record. That's not the way it works. It's like, oh yeah, that you didn't request that from me beforehand, and you just gave that to me, and I didn't agree to off the record, so it's on the record.
Now, the other thing that this brings up is the change.org petition. It says this. I'll read the sentences and then we'll discuss that. So the second portion here, it says that Veteran Nation then started a change.org live on the stream, got hundreds of his viewers to instantly sign. Its goal was having my client's child removed from her mother. So why don't you tell me a little bit about the change.org?
With a lot of the stuff I do, when we're fighting what we believe is corruption, there are steps. I should clarify this. When I called CPS, it was a good faith complaint. I, however, did not expect them to do anything. And they, at the end of the call, they state, well, we're not going to do anything about this. And that's actually what I was expecting, because I was going to do a petition. And what I'm still going to do is a letter to the Attorney General stating that I called to make a complaint. I do know about these things. I've watched it on video. They are not doing what they're supposed to be doing. That was my goal. So then I could actually have intervention to Levy County from the Attorney General, which I've been trying to get for months, to the sheriff, to the Amanda Martin, the victim advocate, to the judge, because I've got my letter here about grudge judge that I wrote right here. This is the response from the Florida Judicial Ethics Commission. So, I mean, this is what I do. There are steps to these things. You start low, you give them a chance to fix things, and when they don't fix it, then you go a step higher, you get a little bit louder, because when you get with politicians, and I watched your stream the other day with you and Megan, and you guys were like, yeah, petitions don't do anything. And very true. Most times they don't do a thing. But what it does, I'm a 501c3 with veterans. Any politician will tell you, if a veterans group requests to meet, you sit there and you listen to them. You meet with them and you sit and listen, because they want to tell you what's going on. You don't have to take any action beyond that. If you listen to them, they're probably going to be okay from there. But if you don't listen to them, holy Jesus, what you're going to get is 50 of them showing up to your offices. And right. When you're an organized group of veterans, that means something to politicians. When you're an organized group of citizens, that means something. So that's what I'm trying to do with all this, is to get people organized against corruption in Levy County.
So you're essentially, with the change.org, you're trying to say this is a matter that a lot of people are seeing an issue with, and
DCF is not doing what it's supposed to, and the Attorney General needs to step in and start looking at things. Is the goal?
I would say the wording here is not. Again, since we're hung up on factually correct items, the instantly signing of hundreds of viewers is actually not accurate. Because when I saw it setting there, it was stuck at 50 for, I don't know where it's at now. I haven't reviewed it in a hot minute. I saw it
We've
there.
got over 900 now, but during the live stream, I think we topped out at 50.
Yeah, so that's not factually accurate. All right, so let's move
I love
forward.
how Bruce is very loose with the facts, but gets instantly angry at all of us if we're not 100% in the box that he deems to be factual.
Yeah, and again, what was factual in there? Like you said, getting stuck on 2 words. Well, really 4 words. At first it became the illegal adoption item, but later on in messages, it becomes about legal guardian or legal guardianship. That is what he's stuck on. Everything else ignored.
There are legal guardian paperwork concerning the child and Lynette. I had seen those with my own eyes, so I knew that was accurate, 100%. So that's like, okay, I'm going to stick with this verbiage until I know something else.
Yeah, he said that you implied some type of intent to say this person is not the mother. Was that your intent to say, yo, this person is not their mother? Is that what you were trying to do? Or are you just using, like for me, if I use legal guardian, for me, again, I'm not a lawyer. So my kids, I'm their parent. I'm also their legal guardian. So,
right. Me too.
No,
I wasn't trying to say anything other than legal guardian just because I knew I had seen that paperwork and I knew it was correct. I don't think anyone's out there calling her the biological mother, so I definitely know that's wrong.
Right.
So to say adopted mother, okay, it's kind of splitting hairs, but if that's what he needs, okay, yeah, I'll say it publicly again. Lynette is her adoptive mother.
Yeah, that wasn't even the point of the live stream. Now, this part right here, this next part, it's interesting. Like we were discussing before, at the end of that call, they told you, again, not taking the complaint. So he says, this is again according to him, even though they didn't take the complaint, as a result of that live stream. So as a result of you doing this, that Miss Preston was visited by CPS the following day. It was the 24th such visit by CPS as a result of reports called in by What the Hell's viewers over the last year. And now, YouTube host, again, I'm just going to call you Veteran Nation off that. You were aware of 23 prior CPS visits that has results in no findings of neglect, instead of deferring to the 23 determinations by CPS professionals. Veteran Nation attributed the CPS failure to take my client's child from her to quote-unquote corruption.
I would say to him, why do I need to defer to them? If there's been 23 visits, and clearly Miss Preston is very comfortable putting that child in isolation, if there's still problems arising of cleanliness in the environment of that home, then the 23 visits clearly haven't done their job, in my opinion. And that's the way I see it.
Yeah, I think there's 2 things really that are takeaways from that. I think there's the intent with this. Number 1, it's to say that you didn't make a good faith effort in doing this. This was, again, for something other than, and it wants to attribute this to What the Hells. It basically wants to say that they are inciting harassment because they want to follow this up with not necessarily another legal filing, another lawsuit, but something as an add-on to a lawsuit. Do you feel like that's correct?
No, it's completely incorrect. I would say, if anything, me being a veteran, me being I was a Marine Corps officer, and when you become an officer in the military, you have what's called a bias for action. You just can't sit back and let let the shit show go on. You have to step in and take some type of action, and that's how I am. It's burned into my core. That's just what I have to do. I have to do something. And as far as Jeremy Hales goes, I've never spoken with Jeremy or George. I have no relationship with them. I watch their shows. I don't watch the storage videos that much. I get very interested in the corruption, and that's where I got interested in this case.
So he's not pulling your strings like like a puppet master?
If he is, he's not just the man behind the curtain, he's the man behind that man's curtain, because
he's really good at it.
We've never spoke. The person I've had the most interaction with has been Willis. I sent him a t-shirt. I think what he's doing for Tubetown is great and entertaining. And, he thanked me. And he's had a couple veteran stuff that he's talked about. And I've said, if you want to do anything, Veteran Nation will support you. If we can work together, great.
Yeah, I think, that's a sad chapter in this, as an aside. I think the positives, and there are, again, fighting corruption. I would hope people could at least agree that there is a level of corruption in Levy County, for sure. We're not talking about Preston, not talking about Cook. We're talking about Levy County itself. Number one, I think that, yes, that needs to be corrected. But number two, the positives, like the things that, like Tubetown, again, that could be something that could be amazing. It could take money and bring it to a tiny little place that, well, I've never been there before, but I've had Megan drive me around a few times. On the virtual map, that is a scary thing, by the way. I would never want to ride with Megan in a real car without a lot of Dramamine. But there wasn't a lot to see. Even I was curious and I looked up Levy County, and every video that you see of Levy County basically treats it like, ooh, look at this ghost town. Look at what was. And it's sad because you don't want people to live in a dying place. You want people to be able to have something there, not to drive 40 minutes or whatever to a job. And I think they could bring that there.
Oh, I think, with Tubetown, they're pulling in tourists. It's now a tourist attraction. I think that's great. I think what they're doing with the festival is great. There is good that's going to come of this. And the other good thing is Florida is probably the most transparent state in the country. I wish more states had laws on the books like Florida. We're getting there with several states, but Florida, that's why you hear all the Florida man stories, because they're very transparent with everything. And I used to teach my Marines, sunshine is the best disinfectant. When you have transparency, corruption goes away. And but it's a two-sided coin. Yeah, the government has to put things out there, but the people also have to be engaged. And when I talk about organization, it's really people, even people who are not in Levy County, showing that they're engaged on this is going to really force people to clean things up.
Now, when Megan and I did our live stream, obviously, here's the other thing about people, quote unquote, having their strings pulled. You can tell people disagree on things. Like I've said, for CPS, I don't think contacting CPS helps. I don't think the way that people have done that helps. I'm not saying that people shouldn't. If they see a problem, I'm not in any way saying that people shouldn't do that. But this, obviously, it hasn't helped before. I don't think it helps. But for you, like you're saying, you're building something where you can say, this is what we've done, and present it to somebody. Sit down with them and say, look, there's a problem here, X, Y, and Z. This is what we've tried to do. What are you going to try to do about this?
I can't remember if it was in this letter or where he said it, but at one point Bruce said, make an example of them. And
it's in this letter. Yeah.
Okay. Yeah. When I was in the military and when I was an officer, I used to tell all my staff NCOs, never say make an example of someone, because there you're telling people that our lawful processes don't work. What I have always said is, if I never had to build a case on a Marine. They always built it on themselves, just like Lynette. don't have to build a case on her. She's doing it all herself. And, you know, you give them enough rope, they'll either pull themselves up or they'll hang themselves. But you don't have to make an example of them. They will make an example of themselves. If you're trying to make an example, you're telling them this person is special. This person requires special attention, and you can't use them through your normal processes. That's what you're saying when you say make an example of them.
Yeah, so actually, I thought that this is a good super chat too, translated text. And I'll get any super chats, anything else. I will read everything, by the way, for sure. Thank you for backing. If you want to help the channel out, that is a beautiful way of doing it. Thank you. I see you all there. But this one, transplanted Texan, said thanks for the 5 on there too. Something that gives you credibility is that you have ruffled diehard what the hell's fans. You know, apparently you've done stuff that apparently has made some people angry there sometimes. You're not a sheep and not afraid to ask questions.
That's the good thing about us veterans. We in general don't care what people think, which could be a bad thing too. But yeah, we'll be like, yeah, you want to direct the fire on someone, direct it on me, because I'm going to go, and while this guy's going and he's doing this, I'm going to take it a further step and I'm going to get in your face with it. That's the way us veterans react. And like this letter is not going to back me down off of any of this. If anything, this letter is encouraging me.
Yeah, you know, the old getting flack over the target, you know, that adage I think really comes up.
I'm a mentor on an app called the Battle Buddies app, and for everyone watching, it's an app for veterans who are considering hurting themselves or if they're going through any type of crisis. And you know, for them, they can go on that app and they're going to reach out to another veteran like themselves, like me. And we're going to talk about everything going on. What you find with veterans, we just want to be heard. And if you hear us out, most times we're going to be like, okay, so you listened, I'm good. And, you know, so if anyone's watching and they're having a veteran in their family, or if they're a veteran struggling, use the Battle Buddies app. It's run by a very good nonprofit called You Matter Not Alone, but I'm a volunteer there. But yeah, it'll take another veteran to talk me off the ledge when it comes to stuff like this.
Dude, that's good. So Battle Buddies they can just look it up and find the app for that.
Yeah, Battle Buddies app. In fact, I'll show. I'll pull it up on my phone here. The image that they have. It's in all the app stores. Where do I have it here?
Yeah, when you pull it up, I'll give you a solo layout so we can see a little bit better. Yeah, I like that idea. You know, I have a mental health background. You know, I've talked about that. And you know, I have a lot of veterans in family as well. So
it looks like that if you're looking at it in your app store. But it's really great app. There's several of us. We're mentors in there, and yeah, that's it. Most times it takes another veteran to be like, bro, okay, I know what you're doing. I get it. Let's go one-on-one here. But
that's threatening a great thing, man.
Threatening us is going to be like, okay, I'm digging my heels in. Let's go.
I hope, like anybody watching, again, that doesn't deal with any drama or anything else, but that is a solid thing. That is something we need more of. Anything that helps out people that are in crisis. I mean, I love that idea, man. I've worked as a therapist, and again, I hate to use the word general practitioner, but you know, with community mental health, you're not getting somebody that's focused on PTSD or focused on veterans. And unfortunately, sometimes, even though veterans are supposed to be able to get help, honestly, I mean, they've had so many problems with Veterans Affairs. They're like, I'm not doing that. I'm going to go to community mental health or whatever. And man, you get people in crisis, and they do need help. And I've found that speaking to another veteran, again, knowing what's there, what somebody's dealing with, that is a very good way of handling crisis issues.
And I'll say, you know, because of working with veterans now for several years, most of them have undiagnosed mental illness. I'm to the point where I can pretty much spot mental illness. I can't diagnose it or anything like that. I can't tell you what's going on with the person. I could be like, okay, yeah, that person's got some stuff. And with Lynette, she's definitely got something going on, and she doesn't need another attorney. She needs a couple therapists is what she needs. She needs someone to talk to.
Yeah, well, I cannot diagnose people. I can say that I think there are people that are definitely in this that do have needs, and I would very much hope that they get their needs addressed. I say that for being in mental health. I don't remote diagnose anyone anyway. That's improper. But yeah, you can look at people and know that there's issues. There's
there's something going on. And when I see veterans like that, I stop and I'm like, hey, what's going on with you? Let's talk. It normally leads down some rabbit holes. And it took me, another veteran had to look at me and say, you have PTSD. And I was like, you really think so? And they're like, oh yeah, written all over your face. And I immediately said, okay, what do I do for this? And they were like, you need to go get yourself a therapist. And I had to go through the VA in a couple of different places, and they don't make it easy. But within the month, I was talking to a therapist, and it helps. It definitely helps.
Yeah, sure, man. Just having somebody to talk to, period. It's amazing. It's amazing in our society these days. We become so connected, and yet we become so isolated at the same time. It's tragic, just to be honest. We can reach out across the world and talk to somebody, and yet a lot of people, when it comes to real issues, they don't talk to anyone at all.
Yeah.
So this really stood out to me. Like this statement, man, I'm just going to read this part. I'll get your opinion on it afterwards. So YouTube, and in particular those who read emails and letters received at this email address. So again, we aren't talking about community support. We're not talking about Team YouTube here. We are talking about legal@support.youtube. So legal, writing in for that, are and have long been aware of the content being streamed by What the Hell's targeting Miss Preston. What do you think about that statement there?
It's very telling, but it's also very consistent with people around Miss Preston. Like I said, I've been following her since May, June of 2023. And this is not the first time I've seen. This tells me that people are sending emails and letters trying to get my show taken down, as well as trying to take down What the Hell's. And that's consistent because I have screenshots from June and July of Miss Preston supporters saying that very exact same thing, that they have been in a coordinated effort to try to get YouTube to shut down Jeremy and to silence him.
That's wild. Especially now. Like I said, there are people out there, and they have the right to do this too, by the way. They live stream, 5 to 9 hours a day sometimes. And there are multiple people that talk about Jeremy Hales, that talk about everything that goes on with him. He has a lot of people. I will call them detractors of Miss Preston, detractors of the Hales. There are a lot of them, and it's just fascinating. I don't know of any coordinated effort. I've never had anybody be like, yo, we need to shut that other podcast out. I also would not go along with that unless they're out there breaking. I have some very specific legal items that I would be like, yes, that's a problem. They shouldn't be doing that. But otherwise, no. So it fascinates me that it's not just a coordinated effort to take down What the Hell's, but to take down other channels. So you've seen screenshots that lead you to believe that, like, your channel, for example, has been targeted with this?
Honestly, most of the people in the What the Hell's community did not know. Like, they saw my comments and on Facebook and whatnot, and they did not like me. I know that, but they did not know I was doing Veteran Nation until I'm trying to think. I would say probably in the summer months, is when I think they really caught on as to who I was and the the audience that I had. That caused some to kind of back off me, and it caused some to go after me. And I do have to laugh because there was one clip that was sent to me, and it was sent to me because, hey, this channel is talking about you, and the one is a guy who really loves to talk about me, but he said something very telling. He said, yeah, we have to get Veteran Nation, or he said we have to get this channel shut down, talking about Veteran Nation. And he said, to someone else, I'll bring you in on our emails with the lawyer. So
wow.
that clip, I was like, oh, I am keeping this. I am definitely keeping this clip.
I would love to have that sent to me, by the way, because saying that they are getting together, that is actually, just to note this to these channels, by the way, that is against terms of service. Straight up. Yes. If you are organizing a campaign to try to take down channels, you are in violation of YouTube's terms of service. Mass flagging, coordinated. Yep. I don't care how you want to say, oh, we're doing this with this lawyer, whatever. That is 100% against terms of service.
And the only reason I won't mention that channel is because they're one that loves to talk about me. In fact, they love using my comments, which I don't care. They can use all my comments that I post on Facebook, that I post on YouTube. Use those. They're in writing for a reason. But yeah, I've warned people, my content is my content. It is copyrighted. And if you want to use it, just reach out to me. And tell me what you're looking to do, and I'll probably say it's okay, but don't just take it and use it.
I mean, for me, I'm just going to be like for me, the supporters of What the Health have been very nice, very kind. Even when I disagree with stuff, they've been good with that. The detractors, though, aside from one lawyer being like, take that thumbnail, blah blah blah. Besides that, I mean, again, if they don't like what I have to say, that's okay. But I've not had any open calls for takedowns that I've seen.
One thing I do want to do is compare Bruce's his voice to the voicemail that Larry got, the buckle up voicemail. Because it's now making me wonder if that's one of these attorneys, not just him, but compared to him, but there's a couple other law tubers who are now, clearly representing Miss Preston, and I'm curious if that was one of those.
It wouldn't be. I'm just going to say his name. I typically, again, I know Sean, and that would not be him. He will be very vocal about like not liking somebody or whatever. He'd be very vocal, but he would say it out in the open. I've never seen anything where he would try to go and knock out a channel that way. Now, stuff going on in court or anything, I 100%. It would shock me to find out that would be him. Yeah.
I actually kind of feel bad for him. I think he was told it's this, and he was like, okay, yeah, I'll represent her. And I don't think he knew what he was getting into based just upon, the description I've heard of how court went. And what's interesting about that is I grew up in the same area of Ohio that he grew up in. And when I saw his picture, I contacted my best friend and I was like, hey, is this a relative of yours? And he looked and he's like, I've seen that guy at weddings. I think he's like a second cousin of mine or something. I've seen him at like family things. I've never talked with him. I don't know him. And I'm like, oh, wow, this is such a small world.
Well, it's interesting. I've actually been on streams with him and stuff. I try not to have conflict with YouTube. Yeah. Again, you can disagree with what I say. I don't consider that conflict. Conflict is something totally different. But we've been on, we've got along. That's fine, but we've never talked about this, and I would think he was. There was one big live stream I was on, and he was on there, and it's interesting to find out that he was representing because that never came up. It never, and again, it's not like we communicate or anything on the regular, but we get along fine. You know, I try to get along with everybody, but we've always gotten along. I don't know. Maybe one day I'll get curious and ask him about the case. Actually, if I'm on a live stream one day, I wouldn't ambush him live or anything, but I might ask him backstage, yo, man, what's going on with this, buddy? You know?
And, you know, interesting, he's one of her active attorneys, but yet he's not posting things. He's not actively out there threatening people. I've noticed, like,
he's handling it like most attorneys do. You know,
right?
Now you'll get an attorney like there's attorneys that they'll bring up things that have come up in court. A lawyer, again, like for the Depp's lawyer was really good, Adam Waldman.
Yeah.
You know, he went in and he was correcting years of legal items, but they were items that came up specifically in the courtroom. He wasn't addressing things that came up in live streams from this person or that person. He was going in and talking about documentation, and he did that. But all the other attorneys that are attached to this, I haven't really heard anything from them aside from one specific attorney talking about it.
I actually have a lot of experience from the military, being an officer and having to deal with Marines who are getting kicked out or have other issues. I've got a lot of time of just sitting with attorneys and just being able to pick their brain about stuff. And I'll tell you, here's some things just for the audience. Here's how you can tell if you have a good attorney. First off, if they are your attorney and they don't tell you to shut up, they're not a good attorney.
Right.
A good attorney will tell you, shut the hell up, let me do all the talking. So that's the first thing. Second thing is that they'll also, if you ask them, well, will we win this? If they say, oh yeah, you're gonna win, I'd be like, because the ones who say that are normally like, they're just going by the seat of their pants. The ones who tell me, even if you have a very good case, but you never know what's gonna happen in court. Those are always the best attorneys because those are the ones ready for stuff.
I'm going to pull up something related to that. It'll take me just a second to find
Sure,
it. But I actually do want to pull up something associated
I'm sure
with
if
it.
any of the military attorneys that I had to deal with over time, if they're watching this, they're like, yeah, Mike asked me so many questions. Like, I've taken some. I'm like, can I take you out to lunch and just talk to you? Because, I'm not an attorney, so I want to pick their brain. I want to know things that they know. Go ahead.
Talking about attorneys, check this clip out. So somebody was mentioning this about a live stream, and I was like, did that really happen? So yeah, I got sent proof of this. So you'll notice this little statement right there, and I'm wondering again, are we talking about a different account? Are we talking about the correct person? Again, are we talking about actual Lynette in a stream where Bruce is saying, hey, please block them from the chat ASAP? Or is this another account, that was supposed? Because I know they did an interview that, or they listened to something. I don't know. I haven't listened to the interview that went on. If somebody wants to clip that and send it to me, that's fine. But I don't want to sort through 9 hours to find it. But yeah, you saw that.
I've been watching her for a long time, and I can tell you, yes, she does have a YouTube channel, or she does have a YouTube channel. She doesn't really post anything to it, but she does make comments, and I'm looking right now for, because I actually, I think I've got them in my things. I can tell you exactly one of her YouTube names, if I can pull it up here.
I would be like, talking about the attorney telling someone to shut up. Like, the reason I brought that up is because, that's what that looked like. Hey, wait a minute, will you block them out of there? And again, they can clarify that somewhere. They were indeed telling them to, hey, shut it down. Why would you tell them? Are they incriminating themselves, or is that another account? Just clarify that. Because I did find that to be particularly fascinating. Let me pull that complaint back up too, because you were talking about the end of it. Where they said to It's time to make an example. It's time for action. So here's that statement here. So, veteran nation's lives, CPS stunt, and resultant disruption of my client's life should demonstrate to you how far what the hell's fake reality, quote unquote, bad neighbors storyline using my client's life has gone too far. It's time for YouTube to take action. It should shut down your Veteran Nation channel. Wow, I mean, that's straight up a call. It fascinated me, though. What do you think about this, considering you tried to have a good faith conversation with that person during this live stream?
I'm glad I exposed him for other journalists. He's been emailing people. He wants to talk to people. That's how fast he'll turn on you. He will do things to you if you don't toe 100% of what he wants you to believe, hook, line, and sinker. And that becomes dangerous, and it puts people in a bullseye, I guess you could say.
Yes, if I'm 100%, like here, again, this is free form. I'm not writing anything down, obviously you can tell. Like, I'm doing this on the fly. I think interviews, you can have a structured interview like that, like with him and you, like you said, there were certain things you would have liked to ask in retrospect. 100%, I could see having some structure there. But, for this, again, I thought it'd be interesting to talk to you and, get your views on what exactly happened here. And I'm not worried about, you trying to pick apart every single word. With that, though, I felt like, yeah, it was every single word. Again, getting stuck on 2 words and trying to make this giant ordeal about, again, illegal adoption and then your quote-unquote good faith. And you invited him back on, too. Did you have every intention of inviting him on before all this stuff happened?
Oh, yeah. I planned on it. I expected it to be a more structured interview. But yeah, I was going to give him a platform, let him say, just like I said, hey, you got 2 minutes, say whatever you want, just so he could literally say whatever he wanted. And then I was going to start asking him questions. I expected it to possibly turn into a debate, but I didn't expect it to turn mean or, big time contentious. I had already said what I was going to do. I did find a screenshot of her YouTube account, or at least one of her YouTube accounts.
Okay, give me a second. I'll zoom in on you. All right, here we go. Yeah, I've seen pictures of a few accounts. So there's one. Yeah, she's saying herself, yeah, hey, this is me. So that one said, hey, yeah, I am.
And that's over a year old. I think that was June or July of 2023 where that screenshot was taken. So I've been watching for a while, and for me, like, the insanity was hilarious. I've done events, and I used to be a big fan of Opie and Anthony, if you ever listened to that radio show back in the day. And one thing they used to always say is, whenever you're out in the public, give the microphone to the craziest person that you can, because you're going to get great radio. And I've kind of, done that. If I go somewhere and it's like, oh yeah, this guy's a little bit off, I'm going to talk to that guy, because you're going to get gold. You're going to get gold. And she was definitely delivering, but I wasn't using it for the channel. It was just fascinating for me.
You were just watching as a spectator, being like, whoa, this is wild. Well, that's been why, I'm interested in specific types of legal cases anyway. But on top of that, just the chaos. And now this is ballooned into, it's ballooned into something that I'll be shocked if I don't see at least 2 more legal actions come up. But, right. I'm thinking, I can think of 5 potential that I'm really kind of expecting, just to be honest, and potentially a lot more. Again, I've heard Megan Fox Legos. That was an interesting one. Her Lego builds of Turtle Purgatory, that was brought up, and They were talking about that right there. Oh, and again, the insinuation of legal action is definitely there.
I don't know if Megan is watching, but before you get a letter from Bruce, Megan, don't take apart those Legos. They're going to be used as evidence.
I would never be asked to not tear apart my Lego build because I'm going to have to present it in court. Who would have ever thought? The absurdity of that is amazing. I mean, when you think about the levels. Go ahead, man.
I'm looking forward to Larry being in court. In fact, I was telling on my show last night, I will, if Larry wants to do this, I will buy him a suit, but I'd love to see him in a white suit, like an old time Southern lawyer holding on to his suspenders. Your Honor, we intend to prove that Miss Preston had followed Mr. Hales to Levy County, Florida.
Larry's, but I like, if people haven't checked out DUI Guy, by the way, you could check out especially his shorts, not his clothing, but his YouTube shorts.
That's how I found him.
Yeah, that's how I didn't realize that I knew who Larry was. The first time I talked to him again was with the Deb trial, and I had no idea that I watched a bunch of his content before then. I was like, oh yeah, I know who that DUI guy is. He's the guy in all those legal clips, and he's pretty damn good in the courtroom, I have to say.
It's a shame that the Alec Baldwin trial ended so fast, because I've got Veteranation Foundation.com is our channel where we sell our merch. And I've got a lot of veteran stuff up there, some funny stuff. But one thing I have is I've got that meme that was Alec Baldwin with the teardrop tattoo. And at the bottom, I put comply, and I'm selling it as we support Alec Baldwin's movement for Old West justice. And I was going to had that gone on and Larry sitting in the trial, I was going to be like, ooh, I'm going to send you this to wear in court. But I know he never would wear it in court.
He would still find that funny, though. Man, Larry's absolutely a lot of fun to mess with. He's a lot of fun to have on live streams and to goof off with. He is exactly that humor that he showcases on live streams. That's how he acts. Like if you ever communicate with him or anything, he's exactly like that, and it cracks me up because you can read him like that. We haven't had, we're not correspondence buddies or anything, but anytime I have to message him on something, I mean, you can feel that snark, and I love it.
He's like me. He wears his emotions on his sleeve, so you can tell. And I love when he's watching a court video and all of a sudden he gets shocked by what's going on. He's like, did this just happen?
Well, that's why, the meme, I like to call it the meme heard around the world, his expression in the Depp trial. That's really what thrust him into the limelight. A lot of people didn't realize who they were looking at. He did the same thing many of us were doing. You watch a case, any case, you could transfer this to any case, and you see a moment and you're like, oh my God. Well, he did that in court, and you could see his face doing that. And it was so Larry. Let me just say that. Oh man. Let me finish this
Sure,
off here so I can I want to bring up a couple other things too. I also found it, this statement here. I'm going to read the sentence, and you tell me. I mean, this sounds like I'm communicating with legal quite a bit, as always. So that's starting out. As always, I'm available anytime for a call from a YouTube legal representative. If I had as always, does that not sound like that's been going on? Like this particular person?
Absolutely does.
Yeah.
And that is concerning because that tells me if they are in contact, are we not sure that YouTube legal is not essentially giving him the pathway on here's how to get these channels shut down? We need to see this type of thing. Much like how Judge Grudge was doing ex parte communications and telling Lynette, essentially, here's what you need the elements you need to prove in court. It makes me concerned that they're leading him down that same path.
Yeah, speaking to if they speak like any other department in YouTube does, I'm not talking about like when you see them on Twitter, by the way, that's a bot talking to you. If you decide to argue with that, I see people argue with that, that is a bot. I don't think that's a person. But if you talk to people, that's exactly what they do. They start telling you, you know, not just I need X, Y, Z, but some people will start giving you advice, just like you said with the grudge judge. Man, did you read the did you read the filing, by the way, to asking if he would recuse himself, grudge judge?
I did. I'm a smartass, so I love it when I can read something and be like, "Oh, he's being a smartass right here," and that's exactly what I took for something. Like they're just daring the judge. Oh yeah, you know you should do this. And I know a lot of people don't believe the judge will recuse himself. You have to understand, judges do not like being overturned on appeal. It's very embarrassing for them. I don't think grudge judge is going to want to stay on. It'll either be summarily dismissed, which I think actually even Bruce wants, or it'll be he'll recuse himself.
Yeah, I would be shocked if he decides to go in, and they don't like to be challenged. Number one. And number two, they don't like to be disqualified for something. So him being challenged, first of all, you know, he wasn't challenged by a person in the court. Like a lot of people look at this and they say, this right here, this filing is challenged to him. No, he's already been challenged by the courts.
Yeah.
And if he's challenged again by the court, that looks really bad, like you said.
That that appeal decision was pretty rough. Like it was, and you know, I had said initially when they did the thing to recuse, I'm not an expert on Florida law, but I have followed several things. I follow legal mindset, and especially like with the whole thing with Disney, I was following what he was saying, and I was like, I'm pretty sure there's a rule in the judicial system in Florida that if you get a judge who's asked to recuse, they have to recuse, as long as it's not like, you know, someone judge shopping or something like that. Like the first time you should recuse. And then if they try to get the next judge recused, then it's like, okay, now you're just being ridiculous.
Yeah, actually, I've kept up with quite a few guys. Like the Nick Rekieta versus like that was his first move. You know, he had another lawsuit that was going on. It was in front of the same judge. He asked that judge, and of course, they were like, boom, right out the door. You know, would you expect that right off the bat? I mean, just for him to go in and him to argue it, not just argue, but argue it multiple times. I mean, that's what the appeal court was saying. Hey, wait a minute. He shouldn't have done that. I mean, here, these are a few statements. Okay.
That case is going to go off the rails. That's the next one. I've been watching that one for a little bit, and there's things that people aren't talking about that are going on, that it's like, yeah, this is going to go real crazy real fast. So I'll be paying attention to that one as well.
Yeah, I mean, with that one, it'll be interesting to see how... I haven't caught up on that one live yet because this stuff has been so crazy. But there were a lot of good points that were right now. Again, you know, it doesn't matter if you have a good or an interesting point. It matters whether or not how a judge perceives that. But there were a lot of interesting points that were being brought up with how they got a warrant in the first place, like what went on, and it goes with a lot of other. I don't know. I don't want to get too far down that rabbit hole, but there's a lot more. Like I've been sitting around thinking about that for the last week. You know, that filing, and it just fills in some blanks for me. Go ahead. Sorry.
There's witnesses that are now being charged for other stuff like revenge porn. That one's going to get crazy.
Oh yeah. That's that's well when your main witness, you know, for the state is actually getting charged with that could be a whole nother can of worms. I mean that's a crazy thing anyway. But I'm going to read these three little portions here because, you know, again, if people, I figure everyone that's tuning into this probably knows about it, but just for the sake of inclusion and clarity when people run across this, I want to note it. So Judge Thomas's, quote, should have recused himself on, this was the first district, by the way, appeals court. This is what they had to say. This is summarizing some of it. This is in the filing saying that Thomas's should step away. Let me just put that in here, actually. Give me 1 second. I'm going to jump back up to the top. I'm cutting off the addresses at the top. That's why I turned it off.
Yeah, you're fine. You're fine.
So the whole thing here is about the Michelle Preston versus 4 people. You know, you have all of them brought up, and Jeremy Hales is saying, wait a minute, this judge here, he was removed for a case with me and her because of bias. And I think that's a good point when it's brought up for the other people as well. Because, you know, he showcased, according to the appeals court, he showcased bias toward her. So this is what this says. The first district says, number 1, Judge Thomas's should have recused himself on one or more of Hale's motions to disqualify. Number 2, Hale's, quote, demonstrated a sufficient basis for disqualification. They cite, again, what that's from, saying, explaining that the common law writ of prohibition is an extraordinary judicial writ which may be issued by this court to restrain the unlawful exercise of judicial functions when no other adequate remedy is afforded by law. I mean, these are strong statements. And also the last one here, describing that it is appropriate for a court to issue a writ of prohibition, quote, in emergency cases to forestall an impending present injury. And number 3, once a basis for disqualification has been established, prohibition is both an appropriate and necessary remedy. Now that alone, that should be grounds for disqualification for all of this stuff. And if he does not step aside, that is going to become an absolute shit show.
You know, and that's when I sent this letter, or actually this one here, to the Florida Ethics. You know, when I say I'm taking steps, I never expected the Florida Judicial Qualifications Commission to actually do something off of my letter. What I did expect was for people to start taking notice and people kind of start talking a little bit. And I think, you know, that it just makes key people start paying attention. And I know other people did stuff like this, so I'm not going to say, oh, it was all because of me or anything like that. But I do know those who actually wrote letters, when you do stuff like that, it's not going to do anything immediate, but people will start paying attention.
I was reading some of the chat there. Like, you know, they were.
The gold is always in the comments.
Yeah, you know, people have good questions. There's a lot of them. And, you know, people are noting, again, that Travis being threatened with litigation. And that's 100%. It ties in. I had that pulled up earlier. That actually ties in with the concern about Lloyd. When I listened to this stuff with Lloyd, that was very concerning for me, too. Nobody, forget him being a veteran, nobody should be in a situation where they fear. You know, and for him to be talking about, I'm afraid to go back onto that property. I just want to get my stuff and be out of here. You know, I want to be done with these people. And he can't be done with it. They will not let him be through. Like, I don't know. I find that it's very disconcerting. Here's that. So I'm going to do more of an in-depth discussion about this. I actually want to cover that footage you were talking about, you know, there was the Madam Mayor footage, and then there was other footage I haven't shown. I thought it would be good to include this because there was no discussion about any RV, any contract. I'm going to read this real quick here. Dear Mr. Willis, again, for Travis. Further to my message sent to you on GoFundMe, I am placing you on notice of legal action against you for theft. They're saying you stole that RV from Miss Preston's property, in addition to claims for invading her property, invading her privacy, and inciting strangers to call CPS. Wait, what? When did that happen?
Right. I would have a question to Bruce on this. Is he also planning on suing the deputy? Because the deputy was there and a party to this.
Yeah, and the deputy is the one that clarified all the legal standards there, saying that you can film. He gave them permission. Number one, let's go with invading her property. He gave them permission to be on the property, which was totally right. He wanted to argue. This is the thing that he argued with you too, and you and him, you know, as he said, you're going in circles. But I felt you were 100% correct. It's Lloyd's property. He's allowed to go and retrieve his property. He's allowed to invite people since he's there. You know, do you want to say anything?
This is just common because, you know, if you have a boyfriend or girlfriend that moves into your place and then there's a falling out and they leave, they have the right to come and get their property. And the right thing to do is to call your local law enforcement and say, hey, will you be there just to keep the peace? And so that way I can get my stuff out of there. You can't keep their stuff. You have, while it's in your possession, you have to protect it and give them a reasonable amount of time to come and pick up their property. And, you know, this is so many cases on so many of those law shows like Judge Judy, but these things happen every single day. This is not an uncommon thing.
And then the invading her privacy. I suppose they're talking about recording, although they could be talking about just being on the property, period. But, you know, he made a big deal about the recording. And again, the officer that was there, he laid out what they could do. They could record in specific areas. They couldn't go up, for example, the building that she was pulling items out of. They couldn't go in and record there. They couldn't record into her domicile. But
and if you recall, Lynette was making a big deal about them being there to record the child. And I don't think the child was ever in either of the videos. I don't recall seeing the child because they were taking a conscious effort not to record the child.
Yeah, I remember hearing the child. I'm not going to say with 100%. I don't remember her ever getting in there. Yeah. Like you said, they were making a very conscious effort, trying to make sure that they didn't get her on there because they, you know, that's one of the saddest parts about this. No matter what anyone believes here, like a child being involved in anything, having these circumstances around them, it's sad. It's a fucking sad reality. And nobody wants some bad outcome for the child. Anybody, again, if people disagree with calls to CPS or anything else, that's not trying to do something negative toward the child. Everybody's been trying to act, you know, with that. And then the last part of this, saying the inciting strangers to call CPS. Now, I don't remember any statements at all being made within that recording talking about incitement for CPS. I don't know if there's a live stream where they're trying to pull from or something else, you know, that's outside of this that they're pointing to. But again, they're pointing all of this other to the quote unquote theft of the RV. So I would think that would be from that video. And I don't remember him commenting. Actually, I don't remember him commenting very much, period. You know, he was out there like working, trying to get things done.
He was wearing a chest camera. And I haven't seen it. I don't think his video has ever been published. And he was there primarily working. He was just another person in those videos.
Yeah, he was working hard, actually. You know, when I look back at it, like he was it was amazing how much time that it did take on there. Again, when they were talking about edits, obviously you would edit out certain things, so we're not watching them tear down a trailer. All of that. I mean, if he wants them to put up every minute of that, I'm sure they could for them just to showcase. You know, they have the raw video, I'm sure, still, but they cut that down, I'm sure, for time constraints. And you know, that's actually, it's funny because they say all of this is to fund those YouTube clicks, you know, for money. Well, if you have a 3-hour video and people are watching that 3-hour video, that actually is much better for her channel, not much worse for it, you know. So cutting it down, I think it goes right against that. But then they said, Miss Preston has a valid enforceable contract with Lloyd Campbell whereby he would live on her property rent-free with $500 a month credit toward $9,000 agreed purchase price of the RV. Once Mr. Campbell left, the balance would be paid to him at $200 a month. So we're talking about having to deal with them, by the way, just to put this into real perspective, for almost an additional year and a half. You know, that too, whew, I mean, you're going to have at least trying to collect your money for, God, that's a lot of time there. You know, like you've got to set up some kind of payment arrangement. Yeah, that sounds horrible. But as he lived on Miss Preston's property for 5 months, he is owed $6,500 to complete Miss Preston's purchase of the RV, payable at $200 a month for 32.5 months. God, that's a lot of time. Based on here's comes the thread, by the way. Based on your public videos, it is clear you are in control of the RV. Unless you ensure it is preserved pending resolution of Miss Preston's claim and not sold or donated, you will be liable for damages for interfering with Miss Preston's contract and for her loss of the RV. If I do not receive a response from you or your legal representative, you notice the date on this, by the way, we are talking about tomorrow. So, depending on what happens, we may see some other action pop up. Again, we may see discussion about it, but we may see it pop up in next week. I will assume you intend to give the RV to the veteran pictured in your GoFundMe, and we will proceed without delay to initiate legal action against you. So, very clearly stated there, Travis. Yeah.
It's not Travis's, it's Lloyd's, and Lloyd has the title. He can do with it what he wants, unless I would love to see if Bruce can he does these letters. Can you produce a contract, a written contract? I'm sure he's going to say no, it was all verbal, but we've seen the text messages that go counter to that. And the other thing is, he wants Travis to be liable for damages. I got something for you, Bruce. They've already bug bombed it, so it's in a better condition because the lice and fleas are now dead and out of it.
Well, and on top of that, like you said, okay, so it's Lloyd's. How is Travis responsible for sale, for making sure, again, he can't take away Lloyd's RV and be like, no, you can't have that. If it's parked on his property or whatever, he has no legal right. Again, we get back into the legal right of things. He has no legal right to hold on to that.
If anyone tries to come, get it, he's like, that's not my property. You can't take it. I have to reasonably protect it. And if Lloyd were to come get it, that's fine.
What I don't understand about this is why wasn't this brought up in any way, shape, or form while there was a deputy on the property before they retrieved said property?
Yep. But this all shows me that's why she was just there to scam Lloyd out of everything that she could, which is par for the course with everything else I've seen from her.
I just thought it was interesting too. You all had that conversation, in the conversation, it brought up many different things, and I didn't hear anything about this. I actually, again, maybe this was brought up in one of the many hours of live streams somewhere, but I didn't hear anything about this until bam, this right here popped up as one of the many letters going around. By the way, if people are being copied on these, I am curious how many other legal threats are out there. And this very much is a threat for legal action.
And I was blind CC'd on this. Like my name was not in the to line. He put me in the blind CC. So, Travis, if you're watching, and I have, like I said, I've emailed Travis before. I let him know, hey, I was sent a copy of this, and so Travis or anyone attached to Travis, that would be the first thing I would be asking if any legal proceedings done. Who all are you sending these to? That would be a great discovery question.
Yeah, why exactly are you me? I mean, that is so wild. Like you said, who else is added in? Because what exactly do you have to do with the RV? And I know you brought up concerns about Lloyd, so I suppose you would want to know about something like this. But legally, why would you be tagged in this by a lawyer?
Right, and again, me getting it is proof that he's blind carbon copying people. So
Well,
that's I would be asking who are these people that you're BCCing?
it was interesting. He sent me after the whole thumbnail thing. I want basically that image on one thing. You have her image on that. Take that down without delay. Then after there was the discussion about the 18-year-olds taking them to the airport, he sent me pictures of Lynette and the 18-year-olds, and he wanted me to go out and promote the narrative that they were like, this is what I want you to cover. And it included pictures. And I thought, that's very fascinating. First of all, you told me to take down pictures, and yet you want me to showcase pictures. I thought that was either entrapment or it goes against the whole idea of we don't want the picture out, which either way, that's a big problem as far as a courtroom. But also, and this is what I was working to, there was a channel CC'd on that email. And I thought that was kind of interesting because
it really undermines their whole case, because if you're sending this to journalists and not having an agreement ahead of time that it's off the record, they can use all that stuff. You've just given them the okay. You provided it to them. So he's undermining his case in Florida about the whole thing. It's like, no, your legal team is sending it to people.
Yeah, and on the other side, it wasn't even the agreement, like you said. There was no, we're going to keep this confidential. No, there was no off the record discussion. On the contrary, it was, I want you to cover this. I want you to talk about it. Here are pictures. So they were asking me to cover that. I thought that was wild. Anyway, is there anything else you want to include before I hit super chats on this?
There is one thing, and I don't think I sent it to you yet. Or I may have sent it to you. It's in the adoption documents that he sent me. I don't know if I forwarded those to you, but in there is, and I showed this on my channel, so if people want to see it, they can go there, is a handwritten note that says, Harley Grace is my adopted daughter, and she's my heart and soul, my entire world, ! Stop believing lies. God bless you, Michelle Preston. And so he's sending to journalists communication with his client. Is that a violation of attorney-client privilege? Because she clearly took these pictures and sent them to him. Was that with the intent to send it to me? I don't know.
That's interesting, like direct communication. Yeah, that could be a big no-no, Bruce. But again, but I think regardless, all the stuff that they're sending out, I think it undermines everything that they're trying to say is actionable in a Florida courtroom.
Well,
of course we want that. Okay.
He's alluded to them talking and I'll send you the video. I've got it in my Google Drive, so it'll be easy for me to send you a link. Where I've got the other channel talking about emails that they've had with the lawyer, talking about taking my channel down. That all shows collusion of them all. And if he wants to do anything legally, that'll be some interesting discovery.
I very much think that they're going to. I think they're going to. They're hoping to stress you out. First of all, that's the. They want a reaction from you, and they want you to react in a very emotional manner, to say something that's going to lock you in. They're hoping that you'll say that that you were motivated to do something by a video that you saw from What the Hells. That's actually what they hope that you will say in something. But beyond that, anything else, they're like, yeah, I hope we can lock you into something else too. I don't know. That's a dirty game, man. It's very dirty.
It is.
All right, I'm going to hit some super chats. You want to hang for a minute and go over?
Sure.
There's a few here. Okay. And there's most of them are member chats, by the way, and memberships, and I appreciate the memberships. So, kicking that off, Fallen Hero, thank you for a gifted membership there. Appreciate the heck out of it. Thank you, my friend. Adair, also, thank you for a gifted membership. Appreciate that one, too. Thank you very much. Tease T gifted 10 memberships. That's awesome. Thank you, Tease T. I saw those fall in at one time, so I appreciate that. Thank you. So on, thanks for the 5 there. How did she adopt when she has a child taken from her care when she was known as Lacey Griffey? I don't know. See, this is the adoption question. I don't know if you know anything on this. I'll let you answer this too. I have never been really... I've been interested in what family had talked about, again, because this was a piece outside of it. But as far as adoption paperwork, it's never really been something that jumped into my mind, like that specific item. What about yourself? Do you have anything to add on that one there?
I am, and I had people in my chat yesterday trying to talk about the adoption. I don't know all the rules of, it's nothing I've really gone into much detail with. I do know an adoption investigator who has given me some information, not specifically on this case, but on other cases. But with what I was sent and the way I was sent it, it just makes me wonder if that's a rabbit hole I should go down.
Yeah, I feel like what we're talking about here, a lot, again, there's these court cases that are going on. What has Jeremy Hale said that Preston and Cook were doing? What's going on with the orders of protection? How does everything link into that? You also have these components of people that have lived on the property, that have given statements about items. Then we have the John Cook, all of that. Talking about John Cook, to make this clear too, I'm talking about the charges that he's facing. Mm-hmm. The allegations of touch, the firearm, all of that stuff. And then of course we have all of the new round of litigation. That stuff is what I'm trying to tie everything to. And sometimes I get in the weeds. I'm not saying that I don't, but I'm trying to stay with that. Now, Angel, thank you for the 5 gifted memberships with that. Thank you very much. And I noticed, too, an additional 5 gifted memberships. So thank you very much, Angel. I appreciate that.
From down under.
Heck yeah. Man, I really love, like, the people that are staying up till... Lord, crazy hours. Like in Australia, I think, I'm in the future. Maybe I'm actually in the daylight hours. But some of the people in the UK, you folks stay up really late. So I appreciate the heck out of all of you folks.
I see a question addressed to me. Can I address it real quick?
Yeah. Hit anything you want, man.
It's how did I get the name Skipper? It's because I was a Marine Corps captain, and in the Marines, we'll call our captains who are only 03 skippers, whereas in the Navy, an 06 is the skipper, so it's a much higher rank. So it's to annoy the Navy.
I do want to say too, and I said this to you in messages, and I said this live. I appreciate someone watching the back of veterans. I have a lot of veterans in my family. I saw my granddad, especially, the stuff that he went through is awful. He's a World War II veteran. He injured. He was a farmer. They wanted to cut off his. He was actually injured 3 times, and he ended up losing a finger. But they wanted to take his entire hand. And after that, he would never deal with Veterans Affairs. And for all of his life, he was a very stoic man. Didn't say a lot, but when he got on that specific subject, I thought, man, we need advocates. And I'm glad there are people like yourself that advocate for veterans.
This country has a long history of screwing over its veterans. In fact, people who, people get mad at me when I talk about Douglas MacArthur. He was part of the army that cleared out the veterans who were protesting on the national lawn, and that's one of the many black marks against our veterans in this country.
I remember my granddad, like when he would bring up veteran affairs, he would get so angry, and he would talk about again them wanting to take his hand, and all of the issues that he had, all of the struggles, where he had 9 fingers. When I was growing up, he had lost his pinky on his right hand, and he told me the story when I got old enough to understand what was going on with it. I mean, again, they wanted to take away his livelihood, and again, this is the greatest generation we're talking about here. The people that we like to prop up in the American mythos, and yet you look at the struggles they went through. It's awful. My biological father, veteran, stepbrother, uncle. I mean, we've got so many, and there are a lot of them are in need. With like you were talking about, mental health crises. It's an unspoken epidemic out there. It's sad. The level of PTSD that's untreated.
I've been fortunate. One of the most interesting, I've got 2 really interesting interviews that are on the channel. One is with Donald Belsario. And for those of you who don't know who he is, he was the guy who created Magnum PI, NCIS, Quantum Leap, all those shows. He came on our show and gave us a great interview. It was one of our earlier ones, so I wasn't as good at interviewing and not as good on camera. And then I had a gentleman named George Lunsack, who was a World War II veteran of the Coast Guard, who was at both D-Day and VJ Day, and that was a great interview as well.
People should check out your channel again. I'm just now getting to your content. That's like I said, the drama. One of the beautiful things with stuff like this is people can be introduced to something that they may become involved in helping out people that are truly in need out there. Not just a case that we cover, but you may be able to make a greater impact. So I think that's
the good thing about it being designed to help. I don't care if there's 5 people watching or 5,000 people watching. I'll still try to give as best information, because those 5 people, that might be the world to them, the information that I give, if I can help them.
Yeah, and like you said, when you sit down with motivated veterans, or you have them showing up at something, you're talking 10, 50, whatever they show, again, you may actually be listened to. That's the important thing. Those 5 people, if they're united, you may actually change something. That's bigger than thousands or 2. Again, I hope as you grow, you're talking about streaming to thousands of people as you go along. But even if
we're getting there,
5 or 50, hey man, I remember when I first started out for a while. I remember live streams with 8 people. So it's there. You grow from it. So
for 2 years, the channel was just an archive. So I even though it's 4 years old, I've only really been doing this 2 years for YouTube.
Hey, I had what is that?
And a Hoge.
Oh, that's cool.
A Hoge.
Okay, hey, I'm doing an interview right now. Baby. I love that though. She did a hairstyle she was showing me. It's cool.
I have turned into Makoto Negi.
Yes,
So now I'm going to cease to exist.
you've animated your hair out. That's awesome. Iron Rabbit, thanks for the 2 there. Thank you, mods. You're appreciated. Indeed. Yes, you definitely are appreciated.
God bless the mods.
Yes, for sure. That's when anybody complains about mods and stuff, I'm like, mods are there doing what they do. They're part of the chat.
If you don't subscribe, I'm going to turn you into butter.
Into butter?
You do realize Bruce could have said some stuff to take my channel down. I gave him free reign. He could have been like, the Holocaust never happened or something like that, and gotten me deplatformed.
Right. Yeah. I mean, he could have actually gone off the rail. I mean, again, you approached him in good faith. You let him have the microphone, and it really it frustrates me, to be honest. I sit here and I interview about this, but if I'm being honest, it really frustrates me because he's been asking for somebody to let him on, and he's been complaining about it. And he even gave you props at the beginning. He was like, oh, that Douglas, oh, that Megan, they won't let me on. Well, why the fuck do you think we won't let you on,
Well,
buddy?
now
It's because of that.
no one, unless they're a sycophant, no one's going to have them on now.
Yeah, and when they don't walk the lines, when they see something that maybe disturbs them a little bit, like I wonder how those folks feel about the Jocalist. I wonder how they feel about knowing she had complaints about child safety. Talking about the melatonin, and also, again, her allegations. This is off of her statement. She said that there was a plot to unalive a couple of dogs. So I'm wondering if they'll turn on that. That's the problem with collective grouping like that. Like sooner or later, what happens when a person doesn't walk lockstep? That's why the whole idea again of anyone taking orders. Like, can you imagine Megan being told what to do? I can't.
I would not want to be that person.
No, man. Having conversations, like she's hilarious, but man, she is very live wired, and she is the exact same. Like I was saying with DUI guy, like he is the same message. Well, Megan, like I've talked to her enough, because I make sure people don't understand this before we cover certain things. Like if I have a concern about addressing something, like in another case, there was a potential victim that had been named in a legal document, but before they came up, we all found out about them. And I was like, how far do you go in mentioning that? I feel it's okay to mention yes, there's another victim people have found out about in a case, but if they don't want to be part of it, obviously you don't want to bring them in and stuff like that. We have discussions about that, concerns about that kind of stuff. It's not anybody, again, trying to pull your strings, but every now and then I don't want to figure this out live on the air. I want to have a discussion sometimes with someone, and it's funny talking to her about that because, again, she is exactly like she is on stream, and she's a lot of fun. She's funny. She's so crazy.
I actually found her through you and Larry, and I've enjoyed every second since I discovered her through you guys.
I found her. She had live streamed with Nick Ricada for a while, for a long time, and I had known of her for a while, and I liked a lot of what she was saying, her opinions, and again, she's just blunt. She gives you her opinion. I like that. I also like the fact that you have a female out there speaking their minds. On these subjects that we deal with some very serious topics, and I like the fact that
I've been trying to find a female veteran to like who wants to do like stuff with veteranation because that they have a different perspective. Women have a much different perspective, and for me, who's been in an organization around dudes my whole life, it's like I know what the guys are going to say. I would much rather hear what a woman has to say.
Yeah, I was like, people, they like your perspective, and your channel is criminally undersubbed. So how about we go back and forth? And what I found was, even in communications, like just regular ones, I have a dry sense of humor sometimes, and that's it. They play off well off each other. So I was like, these are fun. I have fun with those live streams, and considering we're talking about some very serious subjects, sometimes we need to have fun too.
Oh yeah.
Jessica, thank you. Welcome. Thank you for the membership. Welcome to Tugs Thugs. Appreciate you. Glad to have you. Thank you. And also, Just Shelley, thank you. Welcome. Thank you for your membership. And also, welcome to Tugs Thugs. Appreciate you as well. Wanda. Thank you for the gifted membership. I appreciate that. Thank you very much. Angel with another 5 gifted memberships. Wow. Thank you. And on top of that, another 5 gifted memberships. Thank you, Angel. yeah, 20, I think, through there. That's amazing. Thank you. I appreciate it. Transplanted Texan. I read this before, but I'm going to read it again. Just throwing it in there. Thanks for the 5. Something that gives, again, you credibility is that you've ruffled diehard what the hell's fans. Not a sheep. Not afraid to ask questions. Good. You know, I'm glad like people ask questions again. There are a lot of, sometimes when something comes up, you know, if you've got questions you don't have to, this is something I think gets lost in the shuffle. You don't have to agree with somebody or even like somebody to think that they're in the right in a courtroom or they're in the right in a legal struggle or some kind of insanity, you know. I'm not saying you don't like them. I'm just saying, you know, like you said, you don't even really know them, you know. You've just been commenting on this insanity. And you did, you know, you talked about her and her craziness, you know, Preston's craziness. That was one of the first things I noticed. Actually, the first thing I noticed with that was I was reading the first round of legal documents and all the stuff like Larry covered and Megan covered. And some of the stuff that she had in there were just, whew, they were something. I was like, is this really a legal document? And is this not just somebody's scribblings?
At some point, you know, I really try not to do any shows about her or John Crook, but at some point, if they keep this stuff up, I'm just going to end up showing all their screenshots for the last year and a half of stuff they were posting because, like, it's just so off the wall.
I think, honestly, to be honest, man, I think you should. And the reason for that, the way you're talking about, you know, you covering this and what you've seen, well, that goes into your concerns. You know, that they want to focus on you and say that you, again, didn't make a good faith effort. Well, look at all this other stuff. Once you document that and you show and explore that, I think that goes to, again, that point.
Yep. I used to be a mod on the Facebook group, the Otter Creek, the Shady Bunch, and we removed both Lynette and John Crook. John Crook for making threats to females. He loves to make threats to females.
Really? I can't say I'm surprised given history, you know, but the rabbit hole was already really deep by the time I got there. So a lot of, you know, you said what, a year and a half? Is that correct?
Yeah, about June of 2023 is when I started. June of 2023 is when I started screenshotting everything.
Yeah, so I mean that's a lot of back. You know, you're talking about going back way back when. And there are a lot of people that send me stuff like that too. I think a video with context, actually documented it, you know, I'm told a lot of times to go back through, well, look at this video, look at that video, look at this one, you know, and it's like, man, that's a lot to, you know, go through one or two screenshots. But yeah, if you put them all together, I think that would be good.
You saw the ones I showed you today. Like I've got these all saved in places.
See, I think that would be good. Organize them, and again, if for nothing else, it's not to go after a person. In fact, they're coming after you.
Maybe I'll do it in a PowerPoint presentation.
Yeah. Well, I mean, they are. They've admitted that they want to make an example out of you. You know, that to that level. And Bruce, he's her for all intent and purposes. That's her speaking.
You want to get my channel taken down? Let's make it a party before it goes. Let's burn this thing.
Like one of those Armageddon parties you see in movies. Yeah. Before the comet hits, you know, before the giant otter steps on my channel. Yes, I got you. Kirby, thanks for the 2. Cousin Vinny suit, LOL. The Cousin Vinny things. Man, I saw that movie the other day. It was pretty funny. Yeah, Liz Bird, thanks for the 2. Is this another 5 hours? Because it's 1 a.m. No, we're about done, actually. Yeah, I said about 2 hours when we were talking about it. And the conversation went really well. Actually, I've enjoyed it. You'll have to come on again, man, for sure.
Oh, thank you. I'd love to.
Jack Small, thank you. Welcome. Thank you for the membership. Welcome to Tugs Thugs. Thank you. Cakes, thanks for the 5. Preston had a chance to dispute the RV. when they picked it up. That's why the fridge had to be left. Yes, it's exactly what I was saying. You know, they did dispute an item. So she can't say, you know, in the moment, you know, I was overwhelmed or whatever. Well, she found in that moment the chance. And she was also saying, when they were pulling out everything out of the, whatever that building is, you know, where they're pulling out the tools and the shelving, she was saying, you know, oh, just take it all. Take everything. So she was telling him, hey, it's all yours. Everything's yours. So... And Heather, thanks for the vibe. Semper Delis Marine, thank you for your service. Yes, you and your fellow soldiers are godsend and appreciated. Yes, indeed, man. Yes, always. Thank you for your service too, man. Appreciate you. All right, you wanna add anything?
As I said on my show, thank you for being worth serving. I always end my show with that.
That's a good. I like that ending. To be honest, you know, people.
I just kind of stumbled into it, but you know, people who care really do appreciate when I say that to them. But I do mean it. You know, it is a pleasure to have served this country, because most of the people in this country are worth it.
Now, again, do you want to mention the app one more time before we?
Sure. Battle Buddies app. If you're a veteran who's struggling or in crisis, or if you know of a veteran who's struggling in crisis, have them download the Battle Buddies app. They'll talk to another veteran, where they can then talk about all their issues, someone who's gone through a lot of the same stuff. And VeteranNationFoundation.com. If you buy any of our merchandise, a portion of it comes back to us to help veterans. But I don't ask for donations. I ask you to buy merchandise, because then you get something.
Oh, yeah. All right, man. Well, I appreciate you having on, and I'm going to end here. Again, support channel for sure. And yeah, we're going to end. Have a good one, folks. Thank you.